Alright lads, I've got a good review for you today. We're looking at Mark Perry's World Eaters into Imperial Guard piloted by a guy called Frye. And this is at the final of a team tournament in America. I'll give you some details in a second, but first I've got to say thanks to Joe and the great work he's doing at Wargames Live. Without him, none of us would have access to so much top table 40k. Now, onto the game. The mission is conversion, and we'll discuss secondaries once we check out the board state. Both the lists are pretty standard, the Imperial Guard bringing a Rogal Dawn and a few Leaving Russes, and then the World Eaters have Invocatus and a brace of Demon Princes alongside. Let's check it out. There's three things that happen in this game that you should really be aware of, and I'll point them out when they're happening. The first is right here in deployment, and what I want to talk about is this force coming out of the World Eater list that says, I could come get you, so you better stand far away. And yeah, this is really the power of the World Eaters, is leveraging this this force. It's actually like you don't even have to do anything; you just have to exist, and then the threat of what you could do is enough to make people. You can determine their movement, which is a very powerful tool to have in this game. It's a game you'll have heard is one in the movement phase. So the World Eaters got first turn here, and they bunched up in this ruin. The guard also used his redeploys to tuck in even further. So obviously he was going to make use of an alpha strike there. Maybe try and get some angles coming around here if he'd gone first, but instead, yeah, since he's going second, he's tucked in even more, and this is just probably exactly what the World Eaters player wants. But Mark made one. I view this as a blunder, but maybe he has more experience with World Eaters than I do. But Invocatus here has been moved here to behind the Rhino. So you remember the Rhinos were here nicely screening out the Demon Princes back here, and now with the first turn, he's decided to pre-game move these guys up here and move the Rhinos up to be their blockade. And in the process, Invocatus has been left out here, kind of completing the screens. But Invocatus that's a fine pickup for the Kasrkin. It could be that what Mark thought here was that he wants the Kasrkin bomb to come in now. He wants the threat of that over and done with. So he's given them a juicy target here with this Invocatus, and he says, "Come on, come down and kill Invocatus, and then I don't care. I'm not going to have to worry about the Kasrkin for the rest of the game." And maybe that's the case. So who do you think's winning this position? So Mark's on one objective here. He's on one objective here, while the guard, Davis, is only on this one objective here. And so if nothing changes, Mark's going to be getting his 8s or even 12s if the guard doesn't tow onto one of these objectives. But let's say he does. So he's going to be getting 8s, and he can then respond by attacking this objective or attacking this objective, and keeping the Davis to his 4. So the guard will get 4, 4, 4, and 12. So that's 24 in total. And Mark will be getting 8, 8, 8, 8, which is 32 in total. So then if you look at the secondaries, Blood God's Due, that's the one where things have to die on objectives. So that's going to be, let's give that an 8. And then Pile of Skulls is free 15 for World Eaters, always is. And Banners, he's on 2 objectives there, so that's going to be 10. While for the Imperial Guard, Boots on the Ground, he's going to score a maximum of 3 a turn from turns 2, 3, 4, and then on turn 5 he might get a 4th point for holding the middle, and that'll sync up nicely with Banners there if he's managing to do that. So that'll be 13 points for Boots on the Ground. Inflexible Command, I don't know what it does, I always just write down 15. And then Raise the Banners, he's really going to get 1 a turn, and then maybe in that last turn he's able to snag another 1 or 2 if he's playing quite conservatively. So 5, and then 6 and 7. So I have that being 33 for Mark's secondaries and 35 for Davis's secondaries. So that's 2 points to Davis, but he's obviously going to be 8 points down on the primary. So I have that being, a 6 point win for the World Eaters if nothing happens. And this is the kind of maths you should do. Like that took me, no more than 2 minutes just to talk that out. And if you're just scribbling on a bit of paper, you can get it done in 1. And when you're doing this, you should always be a little bit more generous with your opponent's secondaries and a little bit less generous with yours. So if in these two banner situations, let's say they were both on one objective, I'd be like, okay, well maybe my banner will be taken down once, and maybe I'll never get to take down their banner. So then when you get to the end, and if your dice don't go your way, or things don't happen in the game, don't happen the way you want them to in the game, you'll never be unpleasantly surprised. Okay, look what the guard player's done here in his first turn. He's shoved his Rogel Dawn and the Lehman Rust there out that way, and a couple of Lehman Russes, trying to sneak this way, but they're not going to get any angles yet. They'd really have to come all the way over here before they can attack Mark's castle. And this one again, he can't see through that gap. Maybe this guy could see Invocatus, but the Rhino is blocking him. But as you can see, Invocatus has been killed, as has that spawn, by this Kassakin bomb. So he dropped down as we predicted, and he killed both of them. Oh, and I actually see now that we weren't quite at the end of Mark's movement phase before. So he in fact did screen out his Demon Princes with this, looks like a unit of 8 bound. So the Kassakin could have dropped here as well and killed the unit of 8 bound, but they chose to come over here and kill Invocatus instead. And now Mark doesn't have to worry about screening for the rest of the game. But now let's just look at how Mark has dictated, or maybe not deliberately, but just the fact that he's in the middle and he has this threat range that probably gets to about the edge of these objectives, right? That's about his threat range. It's about this far across the board. And that's meant that the Rogel Dawn here, which probably could have towed onto this point, has instead decided just to stand here and probably not even shoot, nothing to shoot. So it's going to stand here just so it stays alive into a later turn. And this Lehman Rust hasn't gone up here. Nothing is here to stand on this objective either. So Mark has, in his turn, already successfully kept Davis from getting an 8. And in response, look at this. Davis is on 1 objective. Mark is on 2 objective. Mark is going to get a 12 at the beginning of his turn. He's lost Invocatus, but he's now 8 points up on primary. So that little estimation we did before is even more in Mark's favor. And I would say that at this point, the guard player already really needs to make some stuff happen if he wants to turn this game. Just because we've done a little bit of maths with the score, right? Okay, so now Mark's responded to Davis's Kassakin bomb. He's brought in 5 Khorne Berserkers and a spawn that was probably hiding over here. They've both gone to attack the Kassakin and then used the Kassakin to slingshot onto this objective. And while he doesn't hope to hold it for primary, what it does do is it's going to give him 1 point for Blood God's Due when these things die on this objective. And yeah, and then he passes the turn. See, he doesn't want to attack here. He could, right, go around like this. This is probably with an 11-inch move. It's probably like a 9-inch charge, right? You could go for that. You go for that play, and when you inevitably fail that charge, you've just lost 3 8-bound right there in the middle, and they're just dead. So instead, he just waits patiently. He knows, he's done the maths, he knows that the guard is the one who has to make something happen here. And now you can see that I think the guard player hasn't quite realized that yet. Or maybe he has, and I think what he's doing is he's moved further up this way, he's committed, and he's trying to get this angle, I think. He's trying to manage to get in here. And maybe you can see this Rhino, but I don't think so. It goes right over this wall. And I think you can see the Demon Prince, but the Demon Prince is character protected by this Rhino. So the indirect would really have to kill. The indirect would really have to kill a lot in order to open up this tank's shooting. But this tank has done what I think is the right thing to do, which is move this way, and then you get this angle here. And in fact, with the indirect and this tank, this Rhino has been successfully killed. And as you can see here, some Khorne Berserkers have jumped out. They've used the distance of the emergency disembark. They're going to run like this, and they're going to try and charge this tank just to get onto this point for some more Blood God's Due points. So World Eaters 3 here, and Mark's decided to push up down here. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the score here, because he's definitely been getting 12s by my calculation. He's on 2 points. So he's holding 2 and he's holding more because the guard player is only holding 1. So I think that's 12s by my maths. But yeah, for some reason he's only up to 20. So that's 8, 8, and then 2 for the tertiary both turns. But still, yeah, he's got the banners, obviously. Pile of Skulls he'll do later, and he got his 1 Blood God's Due before for that. And here he's looking to get some more on Blood God's Due, because obviously he does also have to have things die to get that secondary. He doesn't want to fall behind too much there. even though he's got this commanding lead on primary. So yeah, he's run out and he's going to look for basically 3 8-inch charges in here. And so this is really, it looks maybe like a high risk play, looking to bomb some 8-inch charges. But in fact, all of this is so safe right now that it's actually not a dangerous play at all, because Mark doesn't matter, doesn't actually care whether they kill this tank or not. He's totally fine with this charge failing and then just having all this die, get him some more blood tide points, get him a point for Blood God's Due, and then he's just smiling at the end of the game when he gets the tight win. But clearly the Butcher's nails were biting at this point, because all 3 of these units make it in and do manage to pick up that tank. So now we're into the Guard's third turn, and really the writing's on the wall at this point. He didn't see what he needed to do early enough, and now he's finally on this objective at least. So he's going to score some points. He's kind of forcing the issue. I think he should have been there way earlier and then been like, all right, Mark, are you going to come play with your 8-pound, or are you not? When the passive game isn't going your way, you're going to have to throw something away to try and get the fight started. And sure, he might lose it to the 8-pound, but then next turn maybe this tank holds it, and soon Mark's going to run out of 8-pound. But anyway, he's finally there in turn 3. And as you can see, the tank did die down there. And all this is going to pick them up, so they're gone, and he's finally on 2 points. But look, even boots on the ground here, these guys are not wholly in this quarter, so he's still only getting 1 or 2 for that. As you can see, he's only on 1 so far, and it's really not looking good. He doesn't have time now to get through the World Eater's army, and while his Earthshakers back here are really pounding into those 8-pound, there's still enough left that to hold the point. You only need 1 or 2 to hold that point, right? So now we're in Mark's 4th turn. I want to talk about the second thing that you can use in your game. And it's really quite simple, and I really think that more people should be doing this. And that is just hold objectives with a character if you're against a shooting army, okay? Your character, doesn't matter if the objective can be in the open. That does not matter. People insist on, on the objective, you're moving objectives, right? They really want that objective to be safe to get behind cover. That doesn't matter, okay? The objective can be in the open as long as you have a ruin closer to your opponent and a ruin nearby that you can put a 5-man unit in, or a 3-man unit if they don't have indirect, or a tank or something like that. And then you stick your character on the objective out in the open. You can be seen by this guy, right? By this angle here, probably. But it just doesn't matter, because these guys are closer and there's a rhino here within 3 inches of him. So that character is immortal, and therefore that objective is totally safe. And that's something that's very easily replicatable. If you've got like a Space Marine librarian or a captain or something like that, and you've just got your 5 infiltrators, then yeah, stick your infiltrators in the bunker, keep them safe, and then slam your captain out. And it looks a bit heroic as well, doesn't it? He gets to stare down a gun line. That's pretty cool. But what else? But here you can see Mark's sent 1 8-pound down here to stand on this point. He's not contesting it. He's happy to give up the 8 at this point. But what he's doing is just getting 1 more point for Blood God's Due by standing there. And getting taking any secondary points he can with his commanding lead on primary. I think he's in just a pretty happy position. I mean, I don't quite know what's going on here with this primary. Because by my counting, he got 12 turn 1, 12 turn 2, as well as 2 points for tertiary each turn. And this is his 4th turn that we're in. And he got an 8 in his 4th turn. So I have him at 38 for his primary. But this has only got him on 32. So they've missed something along the way. But I don't know what. So in the Guard's 4th turn, he's rejiggled this to keep his Rogaldorn safe. And put the Lehman Russes up. And again, he's realized he's not going to get any angles. So he's just holding that objective as best he can. And trying to keep his big tank safe if the World Eaters do a very late push forward. And luckily we get this classic Warhammer pose of the old resting the hand on the table. It's definitely a position I've been in many a time, surveying your army, a commander's pose. So they chatted this out, and this is an appropriate thing to do in this game because both players already know who is going to win. If you get to the 4th turn and you finished it and you're like, well, there's no way I win this game, let's just talk about how many points we're probably going to get in our last turn. We can agree on something like that. That's totally fine. That's ethical. No one's changing the result. Nothing unexpected is occurring. So that is an appropriate time to talk it out. But when it is not appropriate is if the result of the game is not determined or 100% agreed by both players. If one player thinks that if one player is in the lead and doesn't believe that the other player can catch up in the last round, then that player has no obligation to talk it out. And if you're the player who has got to that point and you think you can win in the last round, but the other player is, digging their heels in, thinks it doesn't matter how obvious it is to you, the lesson to take away from that is to play on a clock and play your time better so you could actually play out that last round and get the win that you deserve. The one thing you can't do is explain exactly what you would have done if they can't see it themselves. If they disagree in any way, you have to give it to them. Don't bully someone into the win, even if it was guaranteed. But anyway, that's beside the point. Here we've just watched the World Eaters win a game by all they've done is stand in the middle and use their force of inertia, or I don't know, some sort of anti-gravity, just to push the Imperial Guard back off the objectives without ever having to charge them. It was turn 3 before the Rogel Dawn towed onto this objective, and now it's turn 4 and he's touching it again. So for 2 turns, the Guard player gave up primary without the World Eaters ever having to lift a chain axe, which is great because who wants to roll those dice? I mean, I love to roll those dice, obviously, except when they let me down. So this is a safer way to a win, although maybe a slightly less fun game. Yeah. So let's count the charges. So the World Eaters killed the Kaskin up there. So that's 1 charge. There's technically 2 units charged in there. So let's say 2 charges there and 3 units charged here to kill that Lehman Russ in turn 3. So 5 charges total for a World Eater army, and the rest was just standing there, exerting pressure. And now we get to the third point, the third takeaway from this game, and that is look at the material bar. Okay, the World Eaters are down 1,000 points. They've got a few 8-bound left, 2 Demon Princes, that's 300 points there. The Rhino for 100, a few 8-bound, yeah. So they've probably got about 800 points left here, and the Guard player has lost 1 Lehman Russ and 1 unit Kazakin, right? So that's about 200 points. So 1,800 points, maybe 750, right? So it is an 1,000 point lead on the board for the Guard player, and yet that does not matter because the World Eaters have won the game. So if you're one of those people who gets a bit precious about their little models, you've spent hours, 10 hours on each model, they look absolutely beautiful. You hate it when they get killed by your opponent. I hate it. I used to. It'd be like, I'd get Be'lakor on the table, and turn 1 he'd get blown away by by a Tau army. And this is 8th edition Be'lakor who could actually be killed by a Tau army. And I'd feel heartbroken. I'd pull the model away, not get to have fun with him that game. Too bad. But if you go on to win that game, what does it matter? You get to look at those models all the way home. You get to put it up on your mantelpiece. You get to admire it at all the other times. Then on the tabletop, all you need from it is to do its job. And its main job, like this little 8-bound down here, is to die when you're supposed to. So let me summarize the 3 takeaways. 3 takeaways. 1 was the pressure. If you don't have to do anything, and you can not take the risk, and you can just, by being there, push your opponent back, then do it. That's what you should be relying on. If they have to break out of this stalemate position, or in fact checkmate position, then that's on them. Don't throw away your position, because if the 8-bound had charged forward here, gone for some 10-inch charges on turn 2, or even on turn 1, and just had to go around this Aegis defense line and bounce off some guard or whatever, and then all get killed, then you've turned a safe, close win into a loss. Second point is hold objectives and screen with your characters. This Demon Prince has been standing here on this objective, protected by this, staring down at 500 points of guard guns over here in these 3 tanks, and he is immortal. They are totally turned off. They have nothing to do. And you can do this with any character. It can be the squishiest character in the game. Doesn't matter. Tow him onto an objective, leave him within 3 of a unit that can't be shot, and there you go. Even if he's in the open, he's safe. And then the third takeaway was At the end of the day, the end of the game, it doesn't matter who has more material left on the board. The only thing that matters is the scoreboard. So you can happily throw away pieces like this. Did 0 damage, but he's worth 1 point. So Mark was like, yes, rather than having him die to indirect next turn. And he has other 8-bound on here that if they died, he'd get 1 point if the unit dies there as well to the indirect. So don't be so precious about your precious models, as long as they're doing their job. Let's end by saying thanks again to Joe at Wargames Live for bringing the upper echelons of 40k to the whole world. And thank you for watching. I'll see you soon, either here or on the tabletop.